Alright guys, welcome back. Mystery Motors here. We have our 208cc PowerSmart 2-stage snowblower here. If you tuned into the last video, you saw we were kind of tearing it apart to hopefully get it moving again. We were using it, it was doing great. This thing slings the snow, fantastic. But I lost all, essentially, drive power. So got it back here, tore it apart, kind of tried to understand what's going on under here, and I think we got it figured out. I mentioned I had snapped a cable in that last video. This is kind of when I pulled it out. Manhandling it a little bit. Accidentally snapped the cable that adjusts essentially the forward and reverse mechanism here. It just kind of pulls this friction disc across the flywheel and changes essentially the direction that the wheels turn. So it looks like they're locked together. One wheel doesn't turn separate from the other, so it's it's a pretty basic system. I mean, it's a PowerSmart, so this is probably the cheapest 2-stage you could get, but I happened upon it a couple years back for $65 on Marketplace. I mean, it still has, tires are flat at this point, but they're frozen flat, so they're solid. But still has the nubs on the tires. I mean, when I got it, I think they said that they couldn't get it started. To be honest, it's kind of a tricky primer system here. You kind of have to do it until you hear it, the fuel going through. But got it running, ran some gas through it. I haven't taken that carb off and cleaned anything, so it's just it's been starting every year, so that's good. We run out of gas, obviously, but yeah. So this is the first real problem that I've had to address. But like I said, we have a new cable. I mentioned that in that last video that the cable looks like it's one piece, but it's actually two piece. It just kind of connects. If you could see here, on either side of this mechanism, and this is kind of where you pull it back and forth to go reverse, or your various speeds in forward gear there. But one cable comes down to this little pulley mechanism. It's kind of teeter-totter. So it kind of always needs a little bit of tension there, I think, to keep it within the spec. In the last video, we did get it back in there, took it out front, got maybe 6 feet, and then it just slipped off again. So I think, what really caused the initial problem for the breakage is maybe the axle here, the shaft. I mean, there's hardly any grease, so I'm thinking maybe this just got bound up, and that's why, it wasn't going into forward or reverse smoothly, and then that's where we snap the cable, being the brute that we are. So let's go ahead, start getting this new cable back on there, and see what happens. All right, so first things first, it looks like we have, it's really pretty basic, rudimentary. Pop this in, it looks like it kind of locks in with this little lip there. Will kind of seat itself along that, yeah, we got a little action coming back now. That looks pretty good. And then we just got to get this bolted in here, essentially. I guess I'm just going to try and match it to the other side. And, ooh, that's right. So we'll pop this off and then put that back on there. OEM, actually, I take that back. I take it all back. Let me see. Let's see if I think we got to pop this. Yeah, so we'll get that. Looks about right there. We want this washer on the other side as well. So there we go. How many monkeys? Just one today, guys. Just one today. Look at this. Put our little cap on there to... I'm half tempted to spray a little, maybe a little deep creep, lubricant down there to... Because, I'm just assuming where it was binding up. I don't really know what happened to it, to be honest. It could have bound up internally. It could have bound up on that shaft down there. But otherwise, look at that. It's OEM mint, guys. Fantastic. And that gets us our tension down there. Let's adjust this camera and try and see if it's as easy on the other side here. All right, so following the cable down, there's some clips that secure it here. I'm gonna try and get this where I think it was before. We have 2 clips that I pulled off, so maybe there was 2 on this side. I'm not sure. We're gonna toss this back on and show getting this set up and see where we're at. All right, so I think we'll be good. There we go. I was kind of surprised pulling these clips off. I was expecting them to shatter with how cold it is here. But we've actually got ourselves a pretty tropical day today. So I'll take it. All right. So we got to get this hooked up on the other side. Simple. Super simple. And then we'll get this one. I think that's the move. We pull her down. We get the new cable seated in from behind. Get in there. Oh, there we go. Just gotta take a little peek there. And then I think the move is we just gotta get our clip. Ooh, which that might be. Ooh, that's an easier said than done kind of situation here. Let me see. Interesting. Let's try this. And actually, looking at this, we might want to get our axle situated first on our friction disc. All right, so we have 2, what I think are 10 mils. Yes, they are, and those are still loose. Because I knew I was taking this back off. Okay, so now that that's off, we can pull this up, and like I said, if you tuned into the last one, this piece here, the way that this works, there's a little hole, I don't know if you can see that hopefully, and there's a little rod here, and they kind of seat in, but the issue here is you kind of have to release the tension and get your friction disc back on the flywheel here. So that's what we're gonna do now. And if I remember correctly, I think we just unhinged some of these springs. All right. So we can see some springs there. We have kind of one on either side, and I think that should just about do it for what we need. And we should be able to let me see. Yeah. I think what I ended up doing was, just this. So kind of rotating the disc around, which is certainly easier said than done. There we go. With enough persistence. So again, this flywheel, it always turns, I believe, when the motor's running. And then there's just springs and belts that apply tension, and then the power is driven where it needs to go, whether it be the auger or the drive train here, which is what we're having fun with today. So now that we're in, you can see it kind of moves freely. I've got some red and tacky. I'm going to hit this up and make sure it does, because, you know, I don't really want to do this again if we can keep it well maintained. So we're going to drop our rod into our adjuster here. And then basically we're just going to line these holes back up and put our bolts back in. Wherever I set those, there we go. So, again, hopefully you can see this. Let me bring you up real quick. So yeah, this is what we're looking like. This mechanism here comes up and it attaches to this kind of push-pull thing, and that's how it works. You move it over and it slides this over and it stays within the lip on the flywheel there. But, you know, if there's no contracting or counteracting rather force, the disc just kind of pops right off that axle and leaves you stranded trying to push a 2-stage snowblower back, you know, wherever it needs to go. Which is a good little workout, of course, but you know, guys, we got plenty of that with the snow shovel. So we'll put our bolts back in. Probably do this with the uncovered hand for a little added dexterity. There we go. And for all intents and purposes, I think this should be it for this piece. I don't think we'll have to get back in here. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down good and snug. Again, 10 mil. Nice. Because I can imagine stuff gets rattled loose on some of these pieces. Nice and tight. That's hopefully not going nowhere. Next thing, we are going to put some of that red and tacky, like I said, on our axle here. Just some grease, guys. I mean, probably not much. We're going to work this in around. You know, you don't necessarily want to put a ton. So you just kind of work it around there. Might wipe off some of that excess, but oh wow, that's it, guys. Look at that. I think that really was the issue. Is that there was just no grease on this, and it just kind of bound up, because that's butter smooth now. And this, I mean, this is a low speed area, so this should be a just fine application for this type of grease, but definitely not something you want to use, you know, in a super high speed, heat, friction. You know, you want to choose your greases appropriately. But I am digging that, guys. That is very good. Okay. Now, we're going to put our springs back on. We got 2 of them here. And if you've ever done like brake drums, you know what you're doing with this. Get you some good needle nose vice grips. It's kind of a must, I think, for any DIY or any, you know, any competent professional as well, I'd argue. They just come in handy. Okay. So, let me get this way over. Pull this way over. Okay, I see. We might need to take just a little break and try to figure how we can get some more slack. Oh, I see it. I'm getting more slack as we speak, guys. So that's kind of where we want to be, but I think for installation, we want to be here, and I think we can get even more if we pop it in, bring it all the way around. Let me see. So this is where we at. This is where we at. This is where we're at. This is where we at, guys. I loosened this up as much as I could up top. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to get this fished around and in position. Yeah, I'll report back in a second. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, literally only took a second. You know, once you have it done, the best way to do it is just pop it in. It will be on the other side of this little tab, but it's so loose that you could just kind of pull the thing and pop it over the tab there. So if you have this style, if you're dealing with this problem, and there's many different styles, you know, of blowers, 2-stage, you know, single stage, and probably all sorts of designs within that, as far as drivetrain and, you know, how it gets the power where it needs to go. But oh gosh, that's the real killer of snowmobiles right there, rust. But yeah, this is, you know, you could sort stuff out like this if you leaves you stranded. Now don't let me speak too soon. We're going to get this button back up. I'm going to get this readjusted to match the other side. Get my power controls, fire this thing up, see how we did. Alright guys, haven't fired it up yet, but I think this is the final piece of the puzzle. So pretty simple setup. I feel like maybe I'm missing a piece. I thought there was like a plastic piece that went over this, but in fact I feel like there is. But for what we need, I mean, this is really just a lever to move this back and forth. Actually, no, it's not, because we need that extra lip there to get the grip. So this, you know, locks it in place. You have to pull it back, and then look at that. That is Butter City, guys. Let's hope that we still obviously have friction on our disc down there. You know, we didn't muff anything up as far as that goes. Tried to keep that rubber pretty clean, but we'll check it out in a minute. All right, I just tested this mechanism. I forgot, you know, there's a lever to engage the drive. Makes sense, right? So pulled that lever, tried to adjust, you know, the speed. You know, everything locks up as it should. Butter smooth up top. We're going to go ahead and throw the bottom plate back on. You know, I don't know if I showed this initially, but easy as pie right there. But to be honest, I tell you what, before we do this, because we have the rust, we're going to do something that I highly recommend for anybody that owns anything that could rust. It's a product called fluid film. And really, don't even, I mean, for what we do right now, we're still wet. We're just going to spray everything down. So we just sprayed the little lip here. Put this back on, and this is a natural, basically, corrosion inhibitor, but you know, it's kind of like I guess you could say it's kind of like a WD-40 type of product, in the sense that it's going to essentially block out moisture for the most part. I know it's water displacement 40. So this stuff, fantastic. I mean, if you've got anything, you know, rusty vehicles, you know, equipment, buy a can of fluid film and go spray it right away, you know, and then deal with cleaning it up and doing a real thorough, proper job when you're able to. But just getting this stuff on any amount of rust will help to prevent it going further. I've been fighting off a little bit on my Civic, which I did a video of, kind of just covering the fluid film and spraying it on during the fall service. But let's see here, one more screw bolt. Got the power of He-Man screwing these things on. What's going on here? Yeah, this thing, every time I go to put this back on, it just wants to line up just a little bit differently, which is funny. Again, guys, the PowerSmart. But technically, I think this is a MTD design. And shout out to, what is it? M&D Mower and Appliance in Oakwood Village, Ohio. They were the only people that had this part. This when I went to look for this cable, you know, everybody has the auger drive cables. You know, it's pretty common, I guess, but this particular model uses, I guess, a different system. You know, I'm not real sure how old this thing is, but it was essentially in brand new condition. I think it still had the manual bag and everything when I got it. $65 on Marketplace. I'm almost certain it was a, you know, it was one that they couldn't get running. There you have it, guys. I do got a lot more corrosion kind of on the front bottom side of this bucket. And again, fluid film, I'm not worried about the moisture right now. Any amount of this on that rust is going to help. And then I'm spraying on ice and everything. But this is a good example of what it does. So it kind of congeals up a little bit. So it, you know, it will kind of add a bit of a coating. You know, so if you get yourself some nice clean bolts, kind of like those are pretty clean, it will provide a very good protective coverage. So, and it's a lubricant of sorts. So it's good, you know, for the moving parts and such. I actually put a little bit up on the threads because that bolt was looking a little worse for wear. So let's get it right side up and see how it sounds. A little cold start for you. Start. Turn the gas on. I will say, if you have a machine where you can shut the gas off, it's always good practice, especially at the end of the year, to turn that gas off and let the engine just die out. That way you have the best chance of clearing all the gas out of the carb. Let's see. Oh. Look at that. It runs fantastic. Let's see here. This is first gear. Oh my gosh, it's perfect. Let's go rear. It's perfect. We have 2 reverse speeds and 4 forward gears. It'll run away. Bring it back here. See if we can throw a little bit. Professional, man. And what I love about this, it's so easy to pull back. You really don't even need the reverse because, you know, as long as it's disengaged, it just rolls so easily. But awesome. This thing runs great. Moves like new. Moves like it did when I got it for $65. Just a little bit more faded. Always check Marketplace, guys. You know, and even when something breaks, I mean, take a look. You know, you might be able to figure something out. You know, that the cable I think was $10. You know, tax it was like $15. Shipping was like $10 or $15. So it was like $30 to get that cable. You know, but if I had to find someone to fix this, you know, I mean, you're probably looking at least $100. You know, $125. You know, depending on where you're at, just for a service call, and then parts and logistics, lots of stuff. But literally, it took me less than 30 minutes to pull that off, see what was going on, see how it operated, and find the broken part and order the new one. So, yeah, thanks for watching this. Hopefully you guys learned something. We'll catch you on the next one.